Chosen one, stop everything you are doing right now, because the enemy just made his biggest mistake. He thought attacking you would break you, but all he did was reveal himself to God. And the moment that happened, heaven stopped waiting and started moving. Chosen one, I need you to stay right here. Do not move. Do not close this. Do not let anything pull your attention away from what I am about to tell you, because this message was not created by accident, and you did not find it by chance. Something far greater than coincidence brought you to this exact moment. And before this is over, you're going to understand why every single painful thing that happened to you was not a loss. It was a setup, not a setup against you, a setup for you. Let me start with the truth that heaven has been holding until you were strong enough to receive it. The enemy has been working against you. You already knew that. You felt it. You felt it in the nights that would not end, in the relationships that turned cold without explanation, in the doors that slammed shut right when you thought things were finally moving. You felt it in your body, in that tension that lived in your chest for months, in that exhaustion that sleep could never fully fix. You felt it in your spirit, in that quiet but persistent sense that something was fighting against you, that something was trying to keep you small, keep you confused, keep you delayed. You were not imagining it. The attack was real. The opposition was real. But chosen one, here is what the enemy did not count on. Here is the mistake that changed everything. He revealed himself. When the enemy moves against the chosen one, he always believes he is winning. He sees the tears and calls it defeat. He sees the silence and calls it surrender. He sees the delay and calls it destruction. He watched you lose that relationship and thought he had broken your heart beyond repair. He watched you lose that opportunity and thought he had cut off your path for good. He watched you sit alone in that season of isolation and thought he had finally separated you from your purpose. And while he was celebrating, while he was convinced that he had won, God was watching something completely different. God was not watching your pain. God was watching the enemy expose every weapon, every strategy, every hidden assignment he had against you. And the moment the enemy showed his hand, the moment he stepped out of the shadows and made himself visible through his own attacks, God said enough. Not enough as in you have suffered enough, though that is also true, but enough as in the enemy has shown enough. Heaven has seen enough. The case is closed. The verdict is in. And chosen one, you already won. I want you to understand what it means that the enemy exposed himself. In the natural world, when an opponent reveals their strategy, they lose their greatest advantage, which is the element of surprise. A hidden enemy is dangerous. A revealed enemy is already defeated. Every move the enemy made against you, every betrayal he orchestrated, every door he tried to close, every person he used to speak against you, every delay he engineered in your life, all of it was his exposure. All of it was him stepping into the light where God could see him clearly and respond with full authority. You were not suffering for nothing. You were the battlefield on which the enemy revealed himself. And now heaven is moving with precision because God knows exactly where to strike. Think about what happened to you in that last season. Think about the person who walked away. Think about the opportunity that fell through. Think about the night you cried and felt completely alone. Now I want you to see it differently. I want you to see it the way God saw it. That person who walked away did not abandon you. God removed them because they were assigned to distract you from your calling. That opportunity that fell through did not close because you were not good enough. God blocked it because it would have taken you somewhere you were never meant to go. That night you cried alone was not evidence that God had forgotten you. It was the night God was closest to you, doing the deepest work inside you that only happens in silence and stillness. Every single thing the enemy used to hurt you, God turned into evidence. Evidence of your resilience. Evidence of your calling. Evidence that you are exactly who heaven said you were before you were born into this world. Chosen one, the enemy targeted you because he knew something about you that you're still learning about yourself. He did not attack ordinary people with this level of intensity. He did not deploy this much opposition against people who had nothing to offer the kingdom. The warfare you experienced was proportional to your purpose. The bigger the calling, the fiercer the opposition. The greater the destiny, the more the enemy fights to stop it before it unfolds. And if you trace back every attack that came against you, every loss, every setback, every painful chapter, you will begin to see a pattern. The enemy was always trying to stop the same thing. He was always trying to prevent you from stepping into the fullness of who God created you to be. He was always circling the same territory, the same gifts, the same relationships, the same areas of your life where God had placed the greatest treasure. And by doing that, by circling those same areas over and over again, he showed God, and he showed you exactly where your greatest power lies. Now I want to talk about what happens after exposure. Because the story does not end with the enemy being revealed. The story continues with God responding. And when God responds to an exposed enemy, the response is not quiet. It is not slow. It is not partial. When God decides to move on behalf of someone who has been attacked, who has endured without breaking, who has held on through seasons that would have destroyed anyone who was not chosen, the response from heaven is full and complete and unstoppable. What the enemy stole from you is already being restored. What the enemy delayed in your life is already being accelerated. What the enemy tried to destroy in your relationships, your peace, your faith, your sense of self, is already being rebuilt stronger than it was before. Not because you fought perfectly, not because you never doubted, but because you stayed. You did not leave. You did not walk away from God, even when God felt far. And that faithfulness, chosen one, that stubborn, persistent faithfulness in the middle of the fire, that is what moved heaven on your behalf. Let me speak to something specific. There are people reading this right now who are still carrying the weight of something they believe was their fault. A relationship that ended badly. A decision that led to pain. A moment where they chose wrong and the consequences followed them for years. And the enemy has been using that memory, that guilt, that shame, as a weapon to keep you feeling unworthy of the victory God has already declared over your life. But hear me clearly. The victory God has spoken over you is not conditional on your perfection. It is not suspended because you made mistakes. It is not delayed because there were seasons where your faith was weak. God knew every mistake you would ever make before he assigned your purpose. He wrote your destiny knowing your worst days. And he still said you were chosen. He still said you were covered. He still said the enemy does not get to have you. So put down the weight of what you did wrong. God has already accounted for it. The only one still holding it against you is the enemy, and his opinion no longer has authority over your life. Chosen one, I want you to feel something shift inside you right now. I want you to feel the weight of this season beginning to lift. Because the truth is that you have been carrying a heaviness that was never yours to carry. You have been grieving losses that were not really losses. You have been mourning chapters that God closed on purpose. You have been apologizing for a calling that requires no apology. You have been shrinking yourself in rooms where God assigned you to take up space. And all of that, all of the shrinking and apologizing and grieving and doubting, it ends here. It ends in this moment. Because now you know, now you understand. The enemy exposed himself. And the moment he did, God said you already won. I want to take a moment and speak to the warfare you have been experiencing in your mind. Because for many chosen ones, the most intense battlefield is not the external circumstances. It is the internal narrative. It is the voice that tells you that you are behind. It is the thought that says you have missed your window. It is the fear that whispers that everyone else is moving forward and you're standing still. That voice is not wisdom. That voice is not discernment. That voice is the last weapon of an exposed enemy. When the enemy can no longer stop you through circumstances, he tries to stop you through your own thoughts. He tries to get inside your mind and speak defeat into a spirit that God has already declared victorious. But here's what you need to know about that voice. It is loudest right before the breakthrough. It is most convincing right before the shift. The enemy does not waste his voice on people who are not about to step into something significant. If the warfare in your mind has been intensifying lately, if the doubt has felt heavier than usual, if the fear has felt more overwhelming than it has in a long time, that is not a sign that you are losing. That is a sign that heaven is getting ready to move in your life in a way the enemy is terrified of. Now, let me speak about the people who were used against you, because some of you are still in pain over specific people. People who betrayed you, people who lied about you, people who left when you needed them most, people who took from you without giving back, people who used your vulnerability against you. And God sees every single one of those situations. He has not missed a moment. He has not overlooked a single tear that was caused by someone who was supposed to protect you. And here's what God wants you to know about those people. They did not have the final say over your story. They were not the authors of your destiny. They were characters in a chapter that God has already closed, and their actions, as painful as they were, could not alter what God wrote for your life before time began. Some of those people will one day witness what God does in your life and understand that they were wrong about you. Some of them will reach back out to you and find a version of you so transformed, so elevated, so clearly covered by grace that they will have no words. And some of them will simply fade from your story entirely, replaced by divine connections that were always meant to walk with you into the next season. Either way, you win. Either way, God gets the glory. Either way, the enemy loses. Chosen one, I want to close this part of the message by speaking directly to your spirit. Not your mind, not your emotions. Your spirit, the part of you that already knows everything I'm saying is true, the part of you that recognized this message before I finished the first sentence, the part of you that has been holding on even when every other part of you wanted to let go. Your spirit already knew the enemy was exposed. Your spirit already felt the shift happening. Your spirit has been sensing for weeks, maybe for months, that something is about to change. That restlessness you have been feeling is not anxiety. It is anticipation. It is your spirit responding to what heaven is already doing. It is the deep inner knowing that the season of attack is giving way to the season of advancement. The season of loss is giving way to the season of restoration. The season of confusion is giving way to the season of clarity. And the season of surviving is giving way to the season of thriving. And I want to say one more thing before we reach the closing of this message. There will be people in your life who did not see what you went through. They did not witness the warfare. They did not sit with you in the darkest nights. They did not watch you hold your faith together with trembling hands when everything around you was falling apart. And because they did not see it, they will not fully understand what they are witnessing when God begins to move openly in your life. They will see the promotion and not know about the preparation. They will see the breakthrough and not know about the breaking. They will see the open doors and not know how many closed ones you walked away from in obedience. And that is perfectly fine. You do not need them to understand the process in order to walk in the result. God does not require witnesses for the work He does in secret. He only requires your willingness to trust Him through it. And you did that. Through every confusing season, through every unexplained delay, through every moment where trusting God felt like the hardest thing you had ever done, you did that. And now the harvest of that trust is coming. Now the return on that faithfulness is arriving. Now the reward for the obedience that nobody saw is about to become the testimony that everybody witnesses. You are not at the end of your story. You are at the beginning of the chapter where God responds. And when God responds to everything the enemy did, when God moves in your life with the full weight of heaven behind Him, what happens next will leave you speechless. What happens next will make every painful season make sense. What happens next will be the evidence that the enemy lost the moment he decided to come against someone who belonged to God. Stay ready, chosen one. Keep your faith steady. Keep your eyes forward. What is coming for you is greater than what was taken from you. What God is building in you is stronger than what the enemy tried to destroy. And what heaven has declared over your life cannot be revoked, cannot be delayed, and cannot be stolen. You are covered. You are chosen. You already won. Chosen one, everything you just heard was not motivation. It was not a performance. It was a word that heaven held until this exact moment, because you needed to hear it now more than ever. The season that broke you was the same season that built you. The silence that confused you was the same silence where God was doing His most precise work. You endured things that were designed to destroy you, and you are still here. That is not luck. That is grace. That is God. And now the same God who watched every tear, who counted every night, who saw every attack the enemy launched against you, is saying clearly and without hesitation, you already won. Receive it. Believe it. Walk in it from this moment forward. Chosen one, if this message reached something deep inside your spirit, if something shifted while you were listening, if you felt a peace or a fire or a quiet knowing that this word was sent directly for you, then do not let this moment pass without responding to it. Type the words "I already won" in the comments right now, not as a ritual, but as a declaration, as a sign to heaven that you received this word and you are choosing to walk in it. If someone came to your mind while you were listening, someone who is in the middle of a battle, someone who is carrying pain they do not understand, someone who needs to know the enemy already lost, share this with them today. One message can change the direction of a life. Subscribe and turn on notifications because heaven is not finished speaking, and the next word may be the one that changes everything for you. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You already won.